Tyler Jenkins never imagined his biology degree would lead to interstellar diplomacy and alien reproduction lessons. Yet here he was, a 28-year-old human scientist, tasked with introducing Andromedan visitors to the intricacies of human mating. The arrival of the Andromedan delegation marked a historic moment for Earth. As the sleek alien ship touched down at the International Spaceport, crowds gathered to witness humanity's first official interspecies cultural exchange. The Andromedans, with their iridescent skin and flowing, tentacle-like appendages, captivated the human observers. Tyler's role as liaison seemed straightforward at first. He led the alien group through the research facility, explaining human biology and scientific achievements. The tour proceeded smoothly until they reached a display on human reproduction. Sirius, a young female Andromedan scientist, froze in front of the video screen. Her large, multifaceted eyes widened as she watched the footage of human mating. For a species that reproduced through genetic recombination in communal pools, the concept of sexual intercourse was entirely foreign. "Fascinating," Sirius chirped, her translator struggling to convey her excitement. "This breeding process, I must observe it up close. For science, of course." Tyler felt his face flush. He stammered, trying to explain the privacy and intimacy surrounding human mating. But Sirius persisted, her curiosity growing with each passing moment. The other human staff members shifted uncomfortably. Ethical concerns and potential biological risks raced through their minds. How could they possibly accommodate such a request? As word spread, the situation quickly escalated beyond the walls of the research facility. Conservative religious groups organized protests, decrying the unnatural alien interest in human sexuality. Xenophobic factions seized the opportunity to stoke fears of alien infiltration and corruption. Meanwhile, the Andromedan leadership viewed the situation as a crucial test of humanity's openness. They hinted that future technological exchanges and alliance negotiations could hinge on this cultural exchange. The pressure on Tyler and his team mounted exponentially. Caught between diplomatic obligations and ethical considerations, Tyler reluctantly agreed to arrange a controlled demonstration. He hoped this compromise would satisfy the aliens' scientific curiosity while maintaining appropriate boundaries. However, a critical miscommunication occurred. Sirius, in her enthusiasm, believed she would be an active participant rather than a mere observer. This misunderstanding threatened to create an interstellar incident. As preparations for the demonstration began, tensions between the human and Andromedan teams reached a boiling point. Some humans feared unforeseen consequences of such close interspecies contact. Others worried about the long-term implications for Earth's standing in the galactic community. Tyler found himself at the center of a storm that could shape the future of human-Andromedan relations for generations. He knew his decisions in the coming days would impact not only his career, but potentially the course of human history. As protests outside the facility grew louder and more heated, Tyler retreated to his office. He stared at the dossiers of the Andromedan delegates, searching for a solution that could satisfy all parties without compromising human values or safety. The fate of two species now rested on his ability to navigate this unprecedented diplomatic and scientific challenge. Tyler took a deep breath, straightened his lab coat, and prepared to face the alien delegation once more. The future of interstellar relations, and perhaps humanity itself, hung in the balance. Tyler's fingers trembled as he adjusted his tie, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him like a physical force. He took a deep breath, steadying himself before stepping out of his office to face the chaos that awaited him. The research facility had transformed into a hive of activity. Scientists in pristine lab coats hurried through the corridors, their voices a mix of excitement and apprehension. As Tyler made his way to the main conference room, he couldn't help but notice the tension in the air, thick enough to cut with a scalpel. Dr. Elena Rodriguez greeted him at the door, her stern expression softening slightly as she ushered him inside. "We've got a lot to cover, Tyler," she said, gesturing to the holographic display at the center of the room. "The protocol for the demonstration is taking shape, but we need your input on several key points." Tyler nodded, his eyes scanning the faces of the assembled team. He recognized the eager expressions of the younger researchers. contrasting sharply with the furrowed brows of their more conservative colleagues. Dr. Marcus Stern sat in the corner, his arms crossed tightly over his chest, radiating disapproval. "Let's start with volunteer selection," Dr. Rodriguez began, pulling up a list of names on the display. "We've had a surprising number of applicants, despite the controversial nature of the experiment." As they delved into the details of the selection process, Tyler's mind wandered to his impending meeting with Ambassador Zorn. He knew he had to tread carefully, balancing the Andromedan's scientific curiosity with the need to protect human dignity and safety. Hours later, Tyler found himself face-to-face with the imposing Andromedan leader. Ambassador Zorn's iridescent skin shimmered under the harsh fluorescent lights of the conference room, his tentacle-like appendages coiling and uncoiling in what Tyler had come to recognize as a sign of intense focus. "Ambassador," Tyler began, his voice steady despite his nerves, "I believe we need to discuss the parameters of the observation in more detail. There seem to be some misunderstandings about human physiology and the nature of our reproductive process." Zorn's multifaceted eyes blinked in rapid succession, a gesture Tyler had learned indicated surprise. "Misunderstandings? Please elaborate, Dr. Jenkins." Tyler spent the next hour explaining the intricacies of human biology, carefully navigating the delicate subject matter. He used diagrams and simplified analogies, watching as comprehension slowly dawned on the alien diplomat's face. "I see," Zorn said finally, his translator struggling to convey the mix of fascination and concern in his voice. "This is indeed more complex than we had anticipated. We will need to adjust our expectations accordingly." As Tyler left the meeting, a wave of relief washed over him. One hurdle cleared, countless more to go. The following days passed in a blur of activity. Tyler found himself constantly mediating between various factions within the facility. He listened patiently to the enthusiastic pitches of young researchers eager to participate, while also addressing the concerns raised by Dr. Stern and his conservative allies. "This is madness, Jenkins," Dr. Stern cornered him one afternoon, his face flushed with anger. "We're risking biological contamination, not to mention violating every ethical standard we've established." Tyler remained calm, explaining the rigorous safety protocols being put in place and the potential scientific benefits of the experiment. But he knew that no amount of reasoning would sway some opponents. Outside the facility, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. News helicopters circled overhead, their cameras trained on the growing crowd of protesters. Tyler watched from a window as police in riot gear formed a barrier between the facility and the angry mob. The arrival of General Richard Hawthorne and his team added another layer of complexity to the already chaotic situation. The stern-faced military man made it clear that national security was his top priority. "I don't care about your scientific curiosity or diplomatic niceties, Dr. Jenkins," Hawthorne said during their first meeting. "My job is to ensure this doesn't blow up in our faces and compromise our position on the global stage." Amidst the swirling tensions, Tyler was surprised to receive a request for a private meeting from Sirius, the young Andromedan scientist whose curiosity had sparked this entire situation. He met her in a secluded corner of the facility's arboretum, away from prying eyes and ears. Sirius's iridescent skin seemed dimmer than usual, her movements hesitant as she approached Tyler. "Dr. Jenkins," she began, her translator struggling to convey the emotion in her voice. "There's something I need to tell you about my people." As Sirius revealed the reproductive crisis facing the Andromedans, Tyler felt the weight of responsibility grow even heavier. The potential implications of this experiment suddenly extended far beyond Earth, reaching across the vastness of space to impact an entire alien civilization. With this new information in mind, Tyler threw himself into the final preparations with renewed vigor. He worked closely with Dr. Rodriguez to set up the demonstration room, a sterile environment filled with monitoring equipment and surrounded by one-way observation windows. Dr. Alan Friedman's arrival brought a new dimension to the project. The renowned xenobiologist's preliminary findings on potential genetic compatibility between humans and Andromedans opened up exciting new avenues of research. "We're on the cusp of something revolutionary here, Tyler," Friedman said, his eyes gleaming with excitement as they reviewed his data. This could change everything we know about genetics and evolution. As the day of the demonstration dawned, Tyler met with the volunteers, Mark and Sarah. The young couple seemed nervous but determined, fully aware of the historic nature of their participation. "Remember," Tyler said, looking them both in the eye, "you can stop at any time. Your comfort and safety are our top priorities." With final checks complete and the facility in full lockdown, Tyler took his position in the control room. He watched as the Andromedan observers filed into their designated area, their alien forms a stark reminder of the unprecedented nature of this event. Tyler's finger hovered over the comm button, ready to give the signal to begin. In that moment, he felt the full weight of two civilizations' hopes and fears resting on his shoulders. Whatever happened in the next few hours would ripple across the cosmos, shaping the future of human-Andromedan relations for generations to come. Taking a deep breath, Tyler pressed the button. "Let's begin." "Begin." The room fell silent as Tyler's voice crackled through the intercom, signaling the start of the historic demonstration. Mark and Sarah entered the specially designed chamber, their nervous energy palpable even through the observation window. The Andromedan delegates leaned forward, their multifaceted eyes fixed intently on the scene unfolding before them. Suddenly, Dr. Rodriguez burst into the control room, her face pale with concern. "Tyler, we have a problem," she whispered urgently, pulling him aside. "Sarah's latest scans show an anomaly. We can't risk her participating." Tyler's mind raced, acutely aware of the Andromedan's expectant gazes and the delicate diplomatic balance at stake. He made a split-second decision. "Get Lisa Kennedy in there now," he ordered, referring to the backup volunteer. As Sarah was discreetly escorted out and Lisa took her place, Tyler watched the Andromedan reactions closely. Sirius, in particular, seemed transfixed, her iridescent skin pulsing with what he interpreted as excitement, or perhaps anxiety. The demonstration began in earnest. Mark and Lisa, professional despite the unprecedented circumstances, engaged in the act of human reproduction. The room hummed with the soft beep of monitoring equipment and the occasional gasp or murmur from the alien observers. Tyler's attention darted between the participants, the Andromedans, and the various screens displaying vital signs and other data. He was so focused on managing the delicate situation that the sudden blare of alarms caught him entirely off guard. Security Chief Donovan's voice boomed through the room before he even fully entered. "We've got a breach. Protesters have made it past the outer perimeter." Tyler's blood ran cold as Donovan continued. "It's Dr. Stern. He's leading them, claiming this whole thing is a threat to humanity." "Initiate full lockdown," Tyler commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos erupting around him. "Seal all sections. We need to contain this now." As security teams scrambled to neutralize the threat, Tyler turned his attention back to the demonstration chamber. His heart nearly stopped when he saw Sirius approaching the airlock. "No, wait!" he shouted, but it was too late. The young Andromedan scientist breached the chamber, her tentacle-like appendages reaching out towards Mark and Lisa. Pandemonium erupted. Alarms blared even louder, mixing with shouts of panic and confusion. Tyler's mind whirled, trying to process the multiple crises unfolding simultaneously. "Get them out of there!" he yelled into the intercom, ordering an immediate evacuation of the chamber. But even as the words left his mouth, he saw Sirius make contact with both human participants. Dr. Friedman's face appeared on a nearby screen, his expression grave. "Tyler, you need to separate them immediately," he warned. "My latest analysis shows a potential for dangerous biochemical reactions between our species. We don't know what prolonged contact could do." As medical teams rushed in, clad in hazmat suits, Tyler found himself face-to-face with an enraged Ambassador Zorn. The Andromedan leader's skin had darkened to a deep purple, his appendages writhing in agitation. "What is the meaning of this?" Zorn demanded, his translator struggling to convey the full force of his anger. "You assured us this demonstration would be controlled and safe." Before Tyler could respond, General Hawthorne pushed his way into the already crowded control room. "Jenkins, this is now a matter of national security," he barked. "We need to enact full containment protocols. No one leaves this facility until we understand the extent of this contamination." Tyler's mind raced, searching for a solution that would satisfy the competing demands of science, diplomacy, and security. He watched as Mark, Lisa, and Sirius were placed in separate quarantine units, their vital signs displayed on monitors overhead. "Ambassador," Tyler began, fighting to keep his voice calm, "I assure you we're doing everything in our power to manage this situation. The safety of all parties is our utmost concern." Zorn's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Your assurances mean little at this point, Dr. Jenkins. The consequences of this incident could reverberate across our civilizations for generations." As if to underscore the ambassador's words, one of the medical technicians called out in alarm, "Sir, we're detecting unusual changes in the biochemical readings from all three subjects." Tyler moved swiftly to the monitoring station, his eyes scanning the rapidly changing data. The implications of what he saw sent a chill down his spine. Whatever was happening inside those quarantine units was unlike anything they had anticipated. He turned back to face the room, acutely aware that every decision he made in the next few moments could alter the course of human-Andromedan relations forever. The weight of two worlds pressed down upon him as he prepared to navigate the treacherous waters ahead. "Dr. Rodriguez," he called out, his voice cutting through the chaos, "I need a full analysis of those biochemical changes. General Hawthorne, secure the facility, but do not, I repeat, do not enact any extreme measures without my authorization." Tyler's gaze met Ambassador Zorn's, a silent understanding passing between them. "Ambassador, I suggest we move to a secure location to discuss our next steps. This situation has clearly escalated beyond a simple scientific demonstration." As they prepared to leave the control room, Tyler cast one last glance at the quarantine units. Inside, human and alien lay still, their fates now inextricably linked by an experiment gone awry. The true test of interstellar cooperation was just beginning. Tyler led Ambassador Zorn to a secure conference room, his mind racing with potential solutions to the escalating crisis. As they settled into their seats, the facility's emergency sirens continued their relentless wail, a stark reminder of the chaos unfolding around them. "Ambassador, I assure you we're doing everything in our power to," Tyler began, but he was cut short by Dr. Rodriguez, bursting into the room, her face a mask of urgency. "Tyler, we have a situation," she said, her voice tight with tension. "The quarantine zone is set up, but we're seeing some unusual developments." Tyler's stomach clenched. "What kind of developments?" Dr. Rodriguez took a deep breath. "Mark and Lisa are exhibiting a faint bioluminescent glow on their skin, and Sirius, her skin texture is changing, becoming more pliable, almost human-like." Ambassador Zorn's appendages writhed in agitation. "What have you done to her?" he demanded, his translator barely able to keep up with his rapid vocalizations. "We don't know yet," Tyler admitted, turning to face the Andromedan diplomat. "But I promise you, we're going to find out." He quickly issued orders to establish an emergency research station within the quarantine zone, with Dr. Friedman taking the lead. As the hours ticked by, Tyler found himself constantly moving between the research station, the quarantine zone, and the various factions demanding his attention. General Hawthorne cornered him outside the medical bay. "Jenkins, this situation is spiraling out of control. We need to consider more drastic containment measures." Before Tyler could respond, Jack Donovan approached, his face grim. "Sir, we've contained the protesters, but there's a problem. Dr. Stern accessed a comm terminal during the chaos. He's broadcast his version of events to the media outside." Tyler cursed under his breath, as if they didn't have enough problems already. He could already imagine the frenzy of speculation this would cause. Returning to the quarantine zone, Tyler found Dr. Friedman hunched over a microscope, his eyes wide with excitement. "Tyler, you need to see this," he said, gesturing for him to look. As Tyler peered through the lens, Friedman explained his findings. The contact between Sirius and the humans has triggered a unique form of rapid genetic adaptation. Human DNA is incorporating Andromedan elements, leading to enhanced cellular regeneration and energy efficiency. And Sirius's DNA, it's adopting human characteristics. This could potentially grant her the ability to reproduce sexually. The implications of this discovery hit Tyler like a physical blow. The potential for medical advancements, for solving the Andromedan reproductive crisis, it was staggering, but so were the risks and ethical concerns. As he grappled with this moral dilemma, another alarm blared. Dr. Rodriguez rushed over, her face pale. "Tyler, it's Lisa. She's pregnant, and the fetus is developing at an accelerated rate. We estimate it's growing nearly 10 times faster than normal." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Tyler found himself mediating between increasingly hostile factions. Ambassador Zorn and his delegation demanded the pregnancy be allowed to continue, seeing it as a potential salvation for their species. General Hawthorne argued vehemently for its immediate termination, citing national security concerns. Dr. Rodriguez's medical team was split, some excited by the scientific possibilities, others wary of the unknown risks. Tyler felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, knowing that his decisions would have far-reaching consequences for both humanity and the Andromedans. In the midst of this maelstrom, a new face appeared. Dr. Samantha Reeves, a renowned bioethicist, had been brought in by the government to assess the situation. Tyler quickly briefed her on the unfolding events. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Reeves mused, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The ethical implications alone are staggering. We're not just talking about interspecies reproduction here, but potentially the creation of an entirely new form of life." As they delved deeper into the ethical quagmire, yet another alarm shattered the tense atmosphere. Dr. Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom, tight with barely controlled panic. "Tyler, get down here now. The fetus, its growth rate has doubled. We're estimating full development within 24 hours. Tyler exchanged a look of shock with Dr. Reeves before they both sprinted toward the medical bay. As they ran, Tyler's mind whirled with the magnitude of what was happening. In less than a day, a hybrid child, part human, part Andromedan, would be born. A child that could change everything. They burst into the medical bay to find it a hive of frantic activity. Lisa lay on a bed, her skin glowing brightly now, her swollen belly pulsing with an otherworldly light. Mark stood nearby, his own skin shimmering, his face a mask of wonder and fear. And there, in a separate containment unit, was Sirius. Her once metallic skin now looked almost human, her large eyes fixed on Lisa with an expression Tyler couldn't begin to interpret. As Tyler stood there, surrounded by the competing voices of scientists, military personnel, and alien diplomats, he knew that the decisions he would make in the next 24 hours would ripple across two civilizations. The birth of this hybrid child was no longer just a scientific curiosity or a diplomatic incident. It was an event that could redefine the very nature of humanity and its place in the cosmos. With a deep breath, Tyler steeled himself for the challenges ahead. Whatever happened next would shape the future of both Earth and Andromeda in ways no one could have imagined. As Tyler stood there, the weight of two worlds pressing down upon him, the medical bay erupted into a flurry of activity. Dr. Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos, her words tinged with urgency. "Tyler, the fetus. It's developing at an exponential rate. We're looking at full-term development within hours, not days." Tyler's eyes widened as he processed the information. He turned to Dr. Reeves, who was already deep in thought, her brow furrowed. "We need to prepare for an immediate delivery," Tyler decided, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Dr. Rodriguez, convert a section of the quarantine zone into a delivery room. Use whatever resources you need." As the medical team scrambled to action, Tyler felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to see General Hawthorne, his face a mask of unshakable focus. "Jenkins, I've just received orders from the top. The child is to be secured for government research immediately after birth." Before Tyler could respond, Ambassador Zorn interjected, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid vocalizations. "Unacceptable. The child is as much Andromedan as it is human. We demand custody for the sake of our species' future." Tyler raised his hands, trying to calm the escalating tensions. "Gentlemen, please. Our priority right now is ensuring a safe delivery. We can discuss custody after—" His words were cut short by the sudden blare of alarms. Jack Donovan's voice crackled over the intercom, tight with tension. Security breach. We have multiple hostiles attempting to penetrate the outer perimeter. It's a coordinated attack. Tyler's mind raced. He turned to Donovan, who had just entered the room. Jack, what's our status? It's bad, sir. We've got a well-organized group of anti-alien extremists hitting us from all sides. And... Donovan hesitated, his expression darkening. We think Dr. Stern managed to get a message out before we contained him. This attack, it's too well-timed to be a coincidence. As if to punctuate Donovan's words, a distant explosion rocked the facility. Tyler's decision was immediate. Jack, mobilize every security asset we have. Hold the line at all costs. Tyler turned back to the medical bay, where Lisa lay on a bed, her skin glowing with an otherworldly light. Mark stood beside her, his own skin shimmering, his eyes never leaving his wife's face. Dr. Rodriguez approached, her face a mix of excitement and apprehension. Tyler, Lisa's gone into labor. We're ready to begin the delivery process. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Tyler found himself torn between the unfolding miracle in the medical bay and the battle raging outside. He watched in awe as the hybrid child entered the world, its skin a mesmerizing blend of human and Andromedan characteristics, shimmering with a soft bioluminescence. The moment of wonder was shattered by another explosion, this one much closer. Donovan's voice came over the intercom once more, his tone urgent. Tyler, they've breached the inner defenses. We've got hostiles heading for the quarantine zone. Tyler's mind raced, weighing options in split seconds. His gaze fell on Sirius, who stood transfixed by the newborn. In that moment, he made a decision that would alter the course of two civilizations. Dr. Rodriguez, initiate emergency evacuation protocols. We're moving Lisa, the child, and essential medical personnel out of here now. He turned to Sirius, meeting her large alien eyes. Sirius, I need you to protect the child. Your connection to both our species makes you uniquely qualified for this task. As the evacuation began, the facility descended into chaos. Tyler led the way through a maze of secure corridors, guiding the group towards an emergency exit. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of battle drawing closer. They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with a squad of soldiers led by General Hawthorne. Jenkins, hand over the child. That's an order. Before Tyler could respond, a group of Andromedan delegates appeared from another corridor, Ambassador Zorn at their head. The child comes with us, for the future of Andromeda. The standoff was interrupted by the sudden appearance of armed extremists, their weapons trained on the group. Death to the alien abomination, one of them shouted. In the chaos that followed, Tyler noticed something extraordinary. The hybrid child, cradled in Sirius's arms, seemed to be adapting to the situation. Its skin changed color, blending with its surroundings, while its eyes darted around with an awareness that belied its age. Tyler's comm unit crackled to life. It was Dr. Friedman. Tyler, listen carefully. Our latest analysis shows the child's genetic makeup could be the key to solving both our species' problems. But there's a risk. Prolonged exposure might trigger genetic changes in those around it. We don't know the full implications yet. As the sounds of battle grew louder, Tyler knew he had to act fast. The fate of two species rested in his hands, embodied in this remarkable child. He looked at the group around him, Lisa, still weak from the birth, Mark, protective and determined, Sirius cradling the child with a mix of wonder and determination, and Dr. Rodriguez, her medical team, ready for action. Tyler's mind raced, formulating a plan. They were close to an emergency exit, but the path ahead was fraught with danger. Multiple factions converged on their position, each with their own agenda for the hybrid child. The facility's alarms blared incessantly, a constant reminder of the chaos surrounding them. As Tyler prepared to make his move, he caught a glimpse of the child's iridescent eyes. In that moment, he realized that whatever happened next would change the course of human and Andromedan history forever. With a deep breath, he steeled himself for the challenge ahead, knowing that their next steps would determine not just their fate, but potentially the future of both species. Species. Tyler's thoughts were abruptly interrupted by a hissing sound from his left. A hidden door slid open, revealing a disheveled man in a lab coat. "Dr. Kennedy?" Tyler exclaimed, recognizing the facility's lead geneticist. Dr. James Kennedy stumbled forward, clutching a metal case. "Tyler, thank God I found you. I've been working on something that could change everything." As the group huddled around him, Kennedy opened the case, revealing several vials of a shimmering blue liquid. "It's a stabilizing agent," he explained, his eyes darting between Tyler and the hybrid child in Sirius's arms. "It could potentially control the rapid genetic changes we're seeing." Tyler's mind raced with the implications. "Can you administer it safely?" Kennedy nodded. "We need to get to a proper medical bay first. There's a secondary one not far from here." With renewed purpose, Tyler led the group through the winding corridors, the sounds of conflict echoing in the distance. They reached the secondary medical bay, a state-of-the-art facility that had miraculously remained untouched by the chaos. Dr. Rodriguez immediately set to work, preparing Lisa and the child for the stabilizing agent. As she worked, Sirius began to convulse, her metallic skin rippling and shifting. "What's happening to her?" Mark asked, his voice tight with concern. Dr. Kennedy observed Sirius with fascination. "Her physiology is adapting, evolving to better protect the child. It's remarkable." Tyler turned to Kennedy. "We need to modify the agent for Sirius. Can you do it?" The geneticist nodded, already moving to a nearby workstation. "I'll need your help. Your knowledge of Andromedan biology could be crucial." As they worked, the sounds of battle grew closer. The medical bay's reinforced doors shuddered under a barrage of impacts. General Hawthorne's voice boomed from the other side. "Jenkins, open up! That's an order!" Before Tyler could respond, another voice joined the cacophony. "The child belongs to Andromeda," Ambassador Zorn bellowed. A third faction made its presence known with a deafening explosion that rocked the entire facility. Through the newly formed breach strode a man with wild eyes and a fanatical grin. "Death to the alien abomination!" he roared. In the chaos that followed, Tyler noticed something extraordinary. The hybrid child, now cradled in Lisa's arms, seemed to be emitting a soft, pulsating light. As the light washed over the room, the aggression of the invading forces visibly diminished. "Tyler, look!" Dr. Rodriguez called out, her eyes wide with amazement. "The child's brainwaves are off the charts. It's influencing the neural patterns of everyone in the room." The realization hit Tyler like a thunderbolt. The child wasn't just a hybrid, it was a bridge between species, capable of altering the very biology of those around it. As the fighting outside the medical base subsided, Tyler seized the moment. He addressed the assembled groups, his voice carrying the weight of the incredible discovery they'd just made. "Listen to me, all of you. What we have here is not a threat, but an opportunity. This child represents the potential for both our species to evolve beyond our current limitations. With Dr. Kennedy's stabilizing agent and the child's unique abilities, we could usher in an era of cooperation and advancement unlike anything we've ever seen." His words seemed to penetrate the haze of conflict that had descended upon them. Even Victor Krantz, the leader of the anti-alien extremists, lowered his weapon, a look of uncertainty replacing his earlier fanaticism. As the tension in the room began to dissipate, a new alarm blared to life. Jack Donovan's voice crackled over the intercom, panic evident in his tone. "Tyler, the reactor's been hit. It's going critical. We've got minutes before this whole place goes up." Tyler's mind raced. He remembered the experimental aircraft in the hidden hangar, designed for both atmospheric and spaceflight. It was their only chance. "Everyone, listen up," he shouted above the alarm. "We need to get to the emergency hangar. It's our only way out of here." As they made their way through the darkened corridors, the hybrid child's calming influence continued to work its magic. Pockets of conflict they encountered along the way dissolved as they passed, combatants lowering their weapons in confusion. They reached the hangar to find a sleek, otherworldly craft waiting for them. As Tyler prepared for evacuation, he realized with growing dread that someone would need to stay behind to manually override the reactor's failsafes. "I'll do it," he said, the weight of his decision evident in his voice. "My knowledge of both human and Andromedan technology makes me the best choice." As he turned to board the aircraft for his final mission, he felt a small hand grasp his arm, The hybrid child, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly intelligence, reached out to him. In that moment of connection, Tyler felt a surge of energy course through him, his mind expanding with new awareness. With a final look at the assembled group, humans and Andromedans united in the face of crisis, Tyler sealed the aircraft's hatch. As the hangar doors yawned open, revealing the chaos of the world outside, he launched into the sky, carrying with him the hopes of two species and the potential to reshape their shared future. As the experimental aircraft soared into the sky, those left behind in the hangar faced a grim reality. The reactor's alarm blared incessantly, a constant reminder of the impending catastrophe. General Hawthorne, his face etched with concern, turned to Ambassador Zorn. "We need to evacuate immediately," he said, his voice firm but devoid of its usual antagonism. Zorn nodded, his metallic skin shimmering under the harsh hangar lights. "Agreed, we must work together if we're to survive this." The two leaders, once at odds, now stood united in the face of a common threat. They quickly organized the disparate groups, setting aside their differences to focus on the urgent task of evacuation. Dr. Kennedy and Dr. Rodriguez took charge of moving Lisa and the hybrid child. Lisa, still weak from the birth, was carefully transferred to a mobile medical unit. The child, its skin pulsating with an otherworldly glow, remained calm in the midst of the chaos. Sirius, her body now altered by her connection to the child, used her newfound abilities to assist in the evacuation. Her metallic limbs elongated and reshaped, allowing her to clear debris and create safe passages for the evacuees. Outside, Tyler wrestled with the controls of the aircraft. His mind buzzed with newfound awareness, his reflexes sharper than ever before. As he approached the reactor, he realized the true gravity of the situation. "Shutting it down won't be enough," he muttered to himself, his enhanced cognitive functions racing through possibilities. "I need to contain it." With deft movements, Tyler reconfigured the aircraft's energy shields. The craft's computer chirped in protest, but he overrode its objections, pushing the systems beyond their design limits. As he initiated the containment field, the reactor breached. Deadly radiation burst forth in pulsating waves. The aircraft shuddered, its systems flickering under the onslaught. Tyler gritted his teeth, drawing upon the strange connection he felt with the hybrid child to maintain control. Back at the facility, the evacuation continued. The child's influence spread like a calming wave, quelling the aggression that had driven the conflict. Even Victor Krantz, the leader of the anti-alien extremists, found his hatred dissipating. Krantz lowered his weapon, a look of confusion replacing his earlier zeal. What are we doing?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. An Andromedan delegate placed a hand on Krantz's shoulder. "We're surviving," she said simply. "Together." This scene played out across the facility as humans and Andromedans set aside their differences, working in unison to escape the impending disaster. In a makeshift lab, Dr. Kennedy hunched over a workstation, his fingers flying across holographic displays. "Eureka!" he exclaimed, holding up a vial of shimmering liquid. "I've done it!" Dr. Rodriguez looked up from tending to Lisa. "What is it?" "An improved version of the stabilizing agent," Kennedy explained, his eyes bright with excitement. "I've incorporated samples of the child's DNA. If Tyler survives, this could save him from the genetic instability." Outside, Tyler's battle with the reactor reached its climax. The containment field held, but the aircraft was falling apart around him. Warning lights flashed across the console as systems failed one by one. Tyler's enhanced abilities began to fade, his connection to the child weakening with distance. As the last of the radiation was contained, he felt his consciousness slipping away. The ground rushed up to meet him as the aircraft plummeted. On the ground, the evacuees watched in horror as the aircraft descended in an uncontrolled spiral. Sirius stepped forward, her body glowing with the same ethereal light as the hybrid child. She raised her arms, and a shimmering field materialized in the air. The aircraft hit the cushioning field with a thunderous impact. Metal screamed and twisted, but the craft remained largely intact as it skidded to a stop on the ground. Human and Andromedan rescue teams rushed to the crash site. They worked in perfect synchronization, cutting through the mangled metal to reach Tyler. When they pulled him from the wreckage, he was unconscious but alive. Dr. Rodriguez immediately began treatment, combining human medical techniques with Andromedan healing methods. Dr. Kennedy administered the improved stabilizing agent, watching anxiously for any sign of improvement. As Tyler fought for his life, the leaders of the various factions gathered around. General Hawthorne and Ambassador Zorn stood side by side, their earlier animosity forgotten. "We need to talk about what happens next," Hawthorne said, his voice low. Zorn nodded. "Indeed, this child, it changes everything." The hybrid child, now in Lisa's arms, reached out towards Tyler. A visible arc of energy connected them, and Tyler's vital signs began to stabilize. His body, ravaged by radiation and genetic instability, showed signs of rapid healing. As Tyler's eyes fluttered open, he found himself at the center of a changed world. Humans and Andromedans worked side by side, their differences set aside in the wake of shared crisis. What happened?" Tyler asked, his voice weak. Dr. Rodriguez smiled down at him. "You saved us all, Tyler, and in doing so, you may have just changed the course of history." Tyler struggled to sit up, taking in the scene around him. The facility lay in ruins, but amidst the destruction, he saw something he never thought possible. Hope. Humans and Andromedans, once bitter enemies, now stood united. As the immediate danger passed, attention turned to the future. The hybrid child, now developing at a more controlled rate thanks to Dr. Kennedy's stabilizing agent, gurgled happily in Lisa's arms. Its presence seemed to radiate a sense of peace and unity. General Hawthorne approached Tyler's bedside, his face a mix of respect and uncertainty. "Jenkins, we need to talk about what happens next. This child, its abilities, they could change everything." Tyler nodded weakly, understanding the weight of the situation. The events of the past few hours had set in motion changes that would reshape the relationship between humans and Andromedans forever. As he looked at the faces gathered around him, he realized that their greatest challenges and opportunities lay ahead. As he looked at the faces gathered around him, he realized that their greatest challenges and opportunities lay in the days to come. Over the next few months, the ruins of the facility transformed into a bustling joint human Andromedan research center. The hybrid child, now named Nova, became the focal point of groundbreaking studies. Tyler, still recovering from his ordeal, watched in amazement as Nova's abilities developed at an accelerated yet controlled rate. Dr. Kennedy and Dr. Rodriguez worked tirelessly to refine the stabilizing agent, ensuring Nova's growth remained within manageable parameters. The child's unique ability to influence genetic structures and promote cooperation between species became the cornerstone of their research. One afternoon, as Tyler observed Nova interacting with a group of human and Andromedan scientists, Sirius approached him. Her metallic skin shimmered with an iridescent quality, a result of her continued evolution since her connection with Nova. "Tyler," she said, her voice carrying a hint of nervousness, "I have a request to make of you." Tyler turned to face her, curiosity piqued by her tone. "What is it, Sirius?" She hesitated for a moment before continuing. "I want to participate in a controlled human Andromedan breeding experiment, with you as my partner." The request caught Tyler off guard. He blinked, processing the implications of her words. "Sirius, that's a big step. Are you sure about this?" Sirius nodded, her eyes fixed on Nova. "My fascination with human reproduction has only grown since Nova's birth, and my physiology has been evolving. I believe it's possible, and the scientific potential is immense." Tyler ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. "We'd need to consult with the ethics committee, run extensive tests." "I understand," Sirius replied. "I've already spoken with Dr. Kennedy and Dr. Rodriguez. They believe it's worth exploring." In the weeks that followed, heated debates took place among the human and Andromedan scientists. Ethical concerns were raised, protocols were established, and finally, after careful consideration, the experiment was approved. The day of the attempt arrived. Tyler and Sirius entered a specially designed chamber, its walls lined with advanced monitoring equipment. Dr. Kennedy's voice came through the speakers. "Remember, we're monitoring everything. If either of you feels uncomfortable at any point, will stop immediately. As the experiment progressed, the scientists watched in awe as Sirius's body adapted, her metallic form becoming more organic. To everyone's surprise and elation, the process was successful. Sirius was pregnant with a second hybrid child. Unlike Lisa's accelerated gestation, Sirius's pregnancy progressed at a more natural pace, allowing for detailed study throughout its duration. Tyler found himself in the unique position of expectant father to an unprecedented being. Meanwhile, Nova's abilities continued to evolve. The child, now appearing to be around 5 years old, demonstrated an extraordinary capacity to facilitate communication between humans and Andromedans. Linguistic and cultural barriers that had long hindered cooperation began to crumble. One day, as Tyler watched Nova mediating a discussion between General Hawthorne and Ambassador Zorn, he marveled at how far they'd come. The two leaders, once bitter rivals, now work side by side, their collaboration yielding rapid advancements in joint technologies and medical breakthroughs. 9 months after the successful breeding experiment, Sirius went into labor. The birth was a momentous occasion, attended by the facility's top medical experts from both species. Tyler held Sirius's hand as she brought their child into the world. "It's a boy," Dr. Rodriguez announced, her voice filled with wonder. "A healthy, hybrid boy." Tyler and Sirius named him Orion. Unlike Nova, Orion's development followed a more typical human pattern, providing valuable comparative data for the ongoing research. As Tyler cradled Orion in his arms, he felt a surge of emotion. This child represented more than just a scientific breakthrough. It was a bridge between two species, a living symbol of unity. Years passed and the research facility expanded into a thriving colony. Humans and Andromedans lived and worked side by side, their collaboration yielding unprecedented advancements. Nova and Orion grew into their roles as symbols of unity, their unique abilities helping to solve long-standing problems for both species. Tyler, now a respected leader within the colony, worked tirelessly to integrate the two species. He and Sirius became ambassadors, traveling between Earth and Andromeda to promote understanding and cooperation. Their family, including Lisa and her hybrid child, served as a living example of the potential for harmony between the two species. One evening, Tyler and Sirius stood in a garden that blended Earth and Andromedan flora, watching Nova and Orion play among the exotic plants. The once sterile research facility had transformed into a vibrant community, with buildings that seamlessly merged architectural styles from both worlds. In the sky above, a fleet of joint human Andromedan ships prepared for their first collaborative deep space mission. Tyler marveled at the sight, remembering the conflict and mistrust that had once defined their relationship. "It's hard to believe how far we've come," Sirius said, her hand intertwining with Tyler's. Tyler nodded, his gaze shifting from the ships to their children. "And to think, it all started with your curiosity about human reproduction." As they stood there, embracing in the garden of their new world, Tyler reflected on the incredible journey that had led them to this moment. The experiment that began with an alien's fascination with human breeding had reshaped the destiny of two species, proving that even the most unexpected encounters could lead to profound and positive change. The sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the colony. In the distance, the sound of human and Andromedan voices mingled in harmony, a testament to the new era of cooperation and understanding. Tyler and Sirius gathered their children, ready to face whatever new adventures the future might hold for their unique family and the two species they had brought together.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.